It's time for another episode of Diabetes 180. If you're noticing with a keen eye, someone different is sitting next to me. Carmi, unfortunately, my wife, is not feeling well. She came down with I guess, we're all actually not feeling 100%, but she's worse off for sure. Picked up a virus probably yesterday. Doesn't help that we stayed up till, I don't know what time we got home, but we were up late.
After like 1.
Yeah, I don't think it was that late. It was before. It was what, 1 o'clock.
Yeah, it was like 1.
Well, yeah. We went to a medieval festival inside a castle nearby in a nearby city town called Obidos in Portugal. A lot of fun, definitely worth doing.
Yes, very fun.
If anyone's been to a Renaissance event in the States, it's similar to that. But picture a Renaissance inside a 13th century castle, right?
Yeah, it's very like magical.
It's live, right? Yeah. So, we were out there really late, probably later than we should have been, and we're paying the price. So, since my daughter here is, of course, still young and energetic, she's unaffected by staying up late.
Very much.
She's going to join us today, and it's kind of cool because you can get some younger perspective on our topic today. As always, let us know who you are or where you're watching from. Please don't be shy, and leave the message right there in the chat so we can greet you. Another thing is, if you have questions through this live, definitely don't hesitate to ask. As you can see, the topics right there. Is plant protein superior to animal protein? That's a question that we need to know, right? Very, I would say, it's a touchy subject.
Yeah, very much. Very
controversial,
very much.
to say the least, right? That's why I chose it specifically. The worded it that way. Is plant protein superior to animal protein? There's so many things to think about and discuss. I know growing up, I love talking about this topic because I know growing up, I was obsessed with protein. Oh my God. When I was young, I don't know if kids your age, are they obsessed with proteins?
I mean, mainly
boys?
the kids who, like the boys, mainly the boys and girls who are in sports or who work out, because a lot of time when you're in sports, your coach tells you make sure you're going home and eating a lot of protein before and after practice. So it's like something you hear in school a lot. So it kind of makes you worry about it somewhat.
Yeah. So I guess it hasn't changed, right? From us, from young, as a young teenager, you're wanting to build muscle, you want to be strong, you're into sports, and you're told you got to have adequate protein. And where do they say your protein should come from? Meats, right? Always is your meat's got to be on the menu.
Yeah.
All right. And so we're gonna discuss, the science, and really let science decide which one is superior. Okay. Hello, Brooke is on the chat with us. Brave enough to say hello. Thank you. I see there are people who are watching, but maybe they're not brave enough to say hello. I don't know why, but just say hello. Let us know where you're watching from so we can greet you too. All right. So, and again, ask questions. We're here to answer them and as best as we can. So, when you think about protein, Zion, what is protein good for? What is it important for?
Growing your mind, as in like keeping your mind sharp.
Okay.
It's a vital thing to survive, something you need to always have.
Yeah. And what do people really want when they want to,
protein.
Be strong, right?
Protein, right? Always want protein.
Yeah, protein is something you think about when you think about muscle building and strength. Audrey, hello. Thanks for joining in. So that's where things get really confusing, because then when you think about the idea of superiority, are you talking about muscle building or talking about strength? You're talking about health overall. Is there a difference? That's what we're going to kind of go into. So, and it's really confusing when you look at the fact that, you're here in school, that protein is better when it comes from animal products. Popular news today, this is a health article I show as an example. Plant versus animal protein, which is better for building muscle. And this is what one of the conclusions drawn in this article, and I'll read it for us. Animal protein is a very efficient delivery system and is more easily digested and absorbed than plant protein, and often in a smaller caloric package. Plus, is the best source of omega-3 fats, vitamin B12, calcium, and vitamin D. So this is a good summary statement for what you might hear a lot when people say that make the case that animal protein is superior, that it's easier to digest. Usually they're talking about the fact that animal proteins have a complete amino acid profile, whereas this is something that is also misunderstood. I should say a misunderstanding of amino acid profiles. And you talk about other factors that make animal proteins better than plant proteins. There's a lot of misunderstanding and miseducation, I guess. So one thing that we know with plant proteins is that you don't have the full amino acid profile. You probably do. Actually, no, that's a tough one for you. Do you know what amino acid is?
I would say I think I should know.
Okay, let's test it. Let's test the teenager.
I should know from class because we do talk. I do think we've talked about it.
Yeah.
But I don't think I know.
Okay, all right. She's gonna be honest. So she's gonna be brave enough to say I don't know. That's the best answer. When you don't know, don't pretend. Don't flex when you can't flex, right? So amino acids are basically the building blocks of protein. Mm-hmm. And when you think about the difference between plant proteins and animal-based proteins, people worry that they're not getting a full amino acid profile when you're eating a plant-based diet, which is wrong. Okay, we're not going to go into that because that's something you can just Google and find out. But when you eat any variety of plants, right, you're going to get your full profile of amino acids. So think of amino acids as the building blocks, what makes a protein.
Oh,
okay. And you can get a full profile. But, people still feel like, oh, we got Mama Gloria on the chat. Hello from Aruba. All right, watching with us. Again, if anyone's watching, don't hesitate to let us know where you're watching from. All right. So going back to this next slide, another thing that you think about, why a lot of people feel animal proteins are superior is because celebrities like Mark Wahlberg, this guy? Yeah, a lot of people do. So you got celebrity athletes, celebrity actors, who are very fit and muscular, and they talk about their high protein diets, and they take you through a day of what they eat, and you're like, yeah, I want to look like him, I got to eat like him, right? So, and the only way to build muscle and strength is from animal-based protein. So I get it. There's a lot of people who believe that animal-based proteins are superior because of these reasons. Miseducation is a big reason. The advertisements of the people we idolize is another big reason. And of course, health professionals who don't really get a lot of nutrition education. Right now, if Carmi was in a chat with us, I would ask her about her experience with the keto diet. She did it. And her doctor said she was cured from diabetes. well, we know better, right? See, the problem with this whole debate is that when you look at short-term benefits, yeah, there are short-term benefits for a low carb or high protein diet, right? Your blood sugars can get better. You start to lose weight. You can build muscle. But my question as we go forward in this live is, and may I ask you, Zion, would you sacrifice years of your life? Let's say if I can get you the body of an Amazon queen. Okay. But in the end, you may have to sacrifice years of life. And also not only years of life, but healthy years. Your later years, you may not be as healthy.
Okay.
Is it worth it?
No.
Okay. And this is from a youth, right? She's turned 16. Usually, a lot of kids would say, yeah, sure, I'll sacrifice some years to look good now, to get good blood sugars now. But we have to ask ourselves, is something superior if it brings only short-term results or short-term positives, right? It's positive only in short term. No, right?
No, I don't think so.
So what I'm going to share is the fact that plant proteins, when you're looking at long-term goals, are superior to animal proteins, because not only do you get the short-term benefits, but you will also get long-term returns, right? And so talking about the short-term benefits, we can build muscle with plants. right? Plant-based proteins. Is that surprising to you, Zion?
Not really.
Not really.
Not
Okay.
really.
I mean, probably because she sees her dad in the gym, and
Yeah.
I'm pretty strong. I think, if I say so myself, right? But these guys here on the screen here are perfect examples of how you can build muscle and strength with a plant-based protein diet, right? This shirt I'm wearing is actually from a guy I met in a Veg Fest. And shout out to Daniel Austin. He's a plant-based bodybuilder, right? You've probably, I don't know, Zai, did you see this documentary, Game Changers? But yeah, we should watch it together. It's a good one. So it talks about athletes and who are doing amazing things, breaking records while eating plant-based diets. So, at one point I might have thought, even myself, that eating an animal-based diet, or getting my protein from animal-based sources was good for at least the physical results, getting muscles, getting strong, performing well in sports. But I can't even say that now, because I can get the same results being plant-based, right? Veronica, watching from Kenya, thanks for joining us. So I hope you guys are following so far my logic, but I want to ask the audience, what is better to you? Short term, looking good, gaining, let's say, getting good blood sugars. Let's say, if you eat meat, cheese, chicken, your blood sugars are good for the short term, right? But you know that in the long term, you're going to sacrifice other aspects of your health. Do you think that's worth it, right? Is it worth it, short-term results, to sacrifice long-term gains, right? Long-term, Audrey says, right? Long-term makes things superior. If you're going to be looking at what's more superior to another, plant versus animal, you got to look at long-term results. You can't look at short-term results. Okay, no matter how big or strong you guys are trying to get, or lean, or getting your blood sugars normalized, look at the long-term results. And this is gonna be the focus of the next 10, 15 minutes. All right. So Zion, you're gonna learn some things today, okay? So long introduction, but definitely needed. Okay. And so going forward, long-term results. Best question to ask then is, who's living the longest in this world? Has anyone heard of blue zones? Right? You've heard of blue zones?
No.
So blue zones are the places in this world where people are living the longest. Okay, right? Now, do you think they're living the longest because they just happen to be in a certain geographical area in the world, and maybe the air there is clear?
Probably not,
Like,
because I'm seeing places in America.
Yeah, it's all over the globe, right? All the way from Okinawa, Japan, to Loma Linda, United States, and California. There's hot spots where people are living longer than average, right? And I know a lot of my viewers probably have heard of blue zones, or even heard of this book, this study that looked at the lifestyles of those who are living the longest, and it was very clear that there were certain common denominators, or certain aspects that were very common in each of these zones. And one of the main things is that those areas had a majority of their proteins coming from plant-based sources, right? So just think about that. People who lived the longest had plant proteins as a source of their nutrition. And it says plant slant because there are places where they might eat meat maybe a few times a month at most, but the majority of their protein came from plants, right? And across the board, when you look at people who are living the longest in this world, they're all using plant-based sources of protein, right? So I don't know if is that something new to you? Do you know that?
Yeah. That's something kind of new.
Yeah, all right. Pretty cool, right? So if you want to live long, then do what those who are living long are doing.
Yeah.
It's just logical. All right. So this is a huge study that a lot of people don't know about, called EPIC, the European Perspective Investigation into Cancer and Nutrition. A long name, but EPIC is easy to remember because it's an EPIC study. About 500,000 people, okay? in about 12 years, their diets were analyzed, right? And the goal was to see, basically link certain diets to causes of disease, especially diabetes, right? Hence, why it's on our channel, Diabetes 180 tonight. So in the EPIC study, they revealed, and I'll read a highlight, that replacing 5% of saturated fat with fructose, which is, you know what fructose is? Probably do, fruits, right? Or even refined sources of carbs reduced your diabetes risk by 30%. So in other words, if you replace 5% of fat in your diet with 5% of fruits or even refined carbs, you reduce your risk of developing diabetes by 30%, just 5%. It goes further to say that by replacing 5% of protein from fruit with fructose or fruit reduces your, and when it says protein, it's talking about animal protein. Yeah. So if you take 5% of the animal proteins that you're eating now and replace that with fruit, you're dropping your risk of developing diabetes by a whole 28%.
Wow, that's a lot.
Right? Just 5%. Is 5% a lot? Not much, right? Just taking 5% of the animal-based proteins and getting rid of them, right, and eating fruits instead, you're decreasing your risk of diabetes by 20%. This was consistent across the board and during this 12-year study. Pretty huge, right? Yes, and Brooklyn says, I would prefer to be able to learn how to regulate my blood sugars with a plant-based diet. That's right? Because you want the long-term results. You want longevity, right? That's what we all are looking for. Who cares if you have good blood sugars now if you're going to sacrifice years of life later? So this is another study, meat consumption, diabetes, and its complications. I hope I'm not boring you. Am I boring you?
No.
Okay, you're learning?
Yes.
All right. Meat consumption, diabetes, and its complications. That's what we're running from. We don't want complications from diabetes. We don't want to develop diabetes in the first place, do you?
No.
Right? And this is what they found in the same study. The more meat you eat, including chicken, the more risk you have of developing diabetes. So here you look at poultry, for example, or turkey. You have, in eating just 100 grams a day, you increase your risk of developing diabetes by up to 8%. This graph is actually taken from Mastering Diabetes book. Definitely worth reading if you haven't. Then you look at the next section, all red meat, beef, pork, veal, lamb. Most of us aren't eating horse, but increased risk of diabetes with just 100 grams a day to 17%. And across the board, of course, unprocessed meat. So people think, well, if I eat my meat unprocessed, then I'm good, right? You know what the difference processed and unprocessed is? Basically, like when you have a lot of preservatives and chemicals added, right?
That's processed meat.
That's processed meat, right? So if you get it straight from the farm to the table, you still increase your risk of diabetes by up to 20%, almost 20% by eating that daily. Of course, when you look at processed meat, it's up to 57%. So processed meat is just, you're basically just rolling the dice on developing diabetes when you eat processed meat every day. Okay. And it doesn't take much. When you think about 100 grams, 100 grams is not a lot. You know how much grams is? That's 100 grams is about the size of your palm.
Wow.
Okay. That much meat a day.
And then people eat even more than that a day.
Yeah. Usually your meat or your chicken is like or it could be half the plate.
Yeah.
Right. Just about the size of your palm. Okay. Yeah. Is enough to increase your risk of developing diabetes. Right. And next study I want to look at looks at cancer. Okay. And meat and fish consumption and risk of pancreatic cancer. Pancreatic cancer is definitely one of the worst cancers a person can get. Right. And in this study, they linked the consumption of chicken to development of cancer. So this is actually from another book highlighting the study from Dr. Michael Greger. What about people eating chicken? Because a lot of people say, well, we know meat is bad for us, but chicken is supposed to be the healthy meat, right? So according to the largest study to ever address that question in the European Prospective Investigation into Cancer and Research, the EPIC study, which followed 477,000 people for about a decade, the researchers found a 72% increase, 72% increased risk of pancreatic cancer for every 50 grams, so that's even just half your palm, of chicken consumed daily. And that's not much meat, right? Under 2 ounces, just about a quarter of a chicken breast. And you'll see as we talk more on cancer risk and diabetes risk and heart disease risk, it doesn't take a lot. These studies show it doesn't take a lot to increase your risk of, I'm shaking up the camera, sorry, of developing chronic diseases. So it may be confusing, I think, Zion, because a lot of people, when they're on these high protein diets that are meat centered, they're looking at their weight is dropping, their blood sugars are dropping, and they're thinking to themselves, they're doing themselves a favor. But if you follow long-term studies and you follow the lives of those who I should say, the populations of people who are living long, right? You can see that you're sacrificing something for that short-term gain in the end, right? You're placing yourself at risk of harm sometime later in life, but by the grace of God, obviously. Ultimately, I believe that, God is good and he can shelter us from a lot of the harms and the evil of this world. But we have to remember, God also says that whatever we eat, whatever we drink, we should do to his glory, right? And we should treat our bodies as his temple. So now when we know, right, we can't feign ignorance, right? When we know something's good for our body temple, we can't just pray and say, God bless this and take the poisons and toxins out of it. I just like to eat this and I know you're going to protect me. No, we have to be mindful of everything we put in our mouth, because in the end, we hold ourselves accountable to a higher power. Okay. Though he does miracles and wonders, we got to obey the laws of health. All right. Now, I think it makes it easier to obey the laws of health when you know the whys. So people ask me all the time, why do animals put us at higher risk? Why are animal foods higher risk when it comes to cancer, diabetes, heart disease, and all causes of mortality, of death? We're not going to answer that tonight. All right. So we're not going to answer that tonight because that actually unloads a lot. There's a lot of different aspects of animal-based foods, meats, dairy, cheese, that make you a higher risk of other diseases. And it would take us another 20, at least another 30 minutes to summarize the different components of animal-based foods that make it harmful.
We have a question right there.
All right. So Brooklyn says this includes the products that comes from animal. So even animal byproducts, so that's why, thanks for asking. Meat, cheese, milk, and all that you can make from them. Okay. Creams, pastries, things like that. So, I mean, even thinking about it, when I was young and I was like on my protein binge, I used to drink, and you don't know this, but I used to drink a lot of milk. Because you're taught that milk does a good body good, right? And milk has a lot of protein in it. And I gained weight. I gained the weight I was looking to gain. I think I gained I remember something crazy, like 20 pounds in a few months. I mean, wow. I put on weight, maybe not a few months, maybe about 6 months to a year. But and this is crazy. I was, I'm lactose intolerant, and I would drink like half a gallon of milk a day. So have mercy on everybody in my house, but I didn't care. I was blowing that bathroom up, but I was gonna get me my muscle, right? But what's amazing is I also started to get pain in my knees. And I mean, it was so bad that and I'm young. I was probably at your age actually, and I couldn't go on long car rides without my knees being in excruciating pain. It wasn't until years later, and this happened for years. It wasn't until years later when I went vegan, when I stopped drinking milk. It was within weeks actually, my pain in my knees was gone. Wow. Right. Arthritis. bone depletion, having calcium leached from your bones. These are the byproducts, the side effects, the results of seeking short-term gains in eating these foods. So yeah, you're gonna learn more on our next live, right? So if you guys have any questions or comments, definitely between now and the next live, leave them in the chat. I'll address them. But we're gonna go really deep into the components of what makes animal-based foods higher risk, and I guess to summarize, answer the question, inferior to plant-based proteins as a source of nutrition, right? So now you know, you can't feign ignorance. All right, go educate somebody. All right. So, Zai, you have any questions? Did I do good? Did I teach?
Yeah, you
okay.
taught.
All right, good.
You're a teacher.
All right, good. So my daughter gets it. So all y'all would get it. She's a smart girl, though.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So as always, beloved, I pray above all things that you may prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prospers. I will see you next week as we answer the question: what makes animal-based meats and proteins harmful?